jealous ex accused me of cheating and said she was pregnant to baby trap me. But it turns out she was the one who was cheating, and the baby wasn't mine. I'm 28M, and I've been dealing with some serious drama lately. My ex-girlfriend, Sarah, 26, fake name, and I had a pretty nasty breakup about 2 to 3 months ago. We'd been together for 2 years, and things had been getting rocky for a while. Now, she's dropped a bombshell on me, and I'm not sure how to handle it. To give you some background, Sarah and I met through mutual friends at a party. We hit it off right away, and for the first year, everything was great. We had similar interests, enjoyed spending time together, and even talked about a future together. I work as a software engineer, and Sarah's a graphic designer. We both have demanding jobs, but we always made time for each other. In the beginning, our relationship was like something out of a rom-com. We'd go on spontaneous weekend trips, try out new restaurants, and spend lazy Sundays binge-watching TV shows. We introduced each other to our families, and everything seemed perfect. My parents loved her, and her parents seemed to like me too. But as time went on, cracks started to show. It started small at first. Sarah would make comments about how much time I spent at work, or how close I was with some of my female friends. I didn't think much of it initially, figuring it was just normal relationship stuff. However, things escalated pretty quickly. Sarah became increasingly jealous and possessive. She'd get upset if I hung out with my female friends, even in group settings. She started checking my phone when I wasn't looking and questioning me about every text or call I got. I tried to reassure her, but nothing seemed to help. One time, I was out with my best friend Mike and his girlfriend for dinner. Sarah was supposed to join us, but had to cancel last minute due to work. Later that night, she called me in tears, accusing me of lying about who I was with because she saw a Snapchat story from a mutual friend who happened to be at the same restaurant. It took me hours to calm her down and convince her that I wasn't cheating. Things got worse when I started a big project at work. I was putting in extra hours, often coming home late. My team included a few women, and Sarah couldn't handle it. She'd call me multiple times during the day, show up at my office unannounced, and even started following me to catch me in the act. I tried everything to make her feel secure. I offered to let her meet my coworkers. I shared my location with her. I even considered quitting the project. But nothing was enough. The constant accusations and lack of trust were wearing me down. The final straw came when she accused me of cheating on her with a coworker named Emily. Emily and I had been working closely on the project, often staying late to meet deadlines. Sarah saw some texts between us discussing work and completely lost it. She showed up at my office one evening when Emily and I were the only ones left working on a presentation. Sarah burst into the conference room, screaming and crying. She accused Emily of trying to steal me away and called her all sorts of horrible names. I tried to calm her down, but she was hysterical. She screamed at me and threw a potted plant at me, missing, thankfully. Security had to be called to escort her out. I was mortified, and Emily was understandably shaken. The next day, I'd had to explain the situation to my boss. He was understanding, but warned me that this couldn't happen again. Emily was professional about it, but things were awkward between us after that. Some of my other coworkers started treating me differently too, like I was the guy with the crazy girlfriend. After that incident, I knew I couldn't continue the relationship. I took a day off work and went to Sarah's apartment to break things off. I explained that her lack of trust and constant accusations had become too much to handle. I told her that her behavior was affecting not just our relationship, but my work and other friendships too. She didn't take it well. There was a lot of yelling, crying, and name-calling. She accused me of never loving her, of using her, of cheating on her throughout our relationship. That brings us to last week. I was at home on a Friday evening, enjoying a quiet night in. I'd ordered pizza, cracked open a beer, and was settling in to watch a movie when there was a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I was a bit confused. I opened the door, and there stood Sarah. She was pale and looked like she hadn't been sleeping well. Before I could say anything, she blurted out, "I'm pregnant, and it's yours." I was stunned. My first reaction was disbelief. We'd always been careful, and given how our relationship ended, I couldn't help but wonder if this was some kind of trick to get me back. I asked her how far along she was, and she said about 2 months. My mind was racing. 2 months ago, we were still together, but things were already bad between us. I tried to remember the last time we'd been intimate, but everything from that period was a blur of arguments and tension. I invited her in, more out of shock than anything else. We sat in my living room. I asked her how she found out when she'd taken the test. She said she'd missed her period and took a home test, then went to a doctor to confirm it. I told her I needed some time to process this. I offered her a glass of water and went to the kitchen to clear my head. When I came back, I found her going through my phone, which I'd left on the coffee table. "What the hell are you doing?" I yelled. She jumped, dropping my phone. I was just checking the time." "No, you were snooping, just like you always do." I have had enough, and told her I needed proof before I could even begin to process this information. I asked for a paternity test, which seemed to upset her. She accused me of not trusting her, ironic given our history, and said I should just believe her. "After everything we've been through, you should know I wouldn't lie about this," she said, tears in her eyes. But all I could think about were the countless times she'd accused me of lying, of cheating, when I'd done nothing wrong. I refused to accept what she was saying without concrete evidence. I told her that given how things ended between us and her past behavior, I couldn't just take her word for it. I said I'd be willing to discuss this further if she could provide medical proof of the pregnancy and agree to a paternity test. Sarah got angry. She called me every name in the book, saying I was a coward for not stepping up and taking responsibility. She threatened to tell all our mutual friends and my family that I was abandoning her and my supposed child. Then she stormed off, slamming the door behind her. Since then, I've been a mess. I can't focus at work. I'm not sleeping well, and I feel like I'm constantly on edge. Part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh. What if she really is pregnant? But another part of me can't shake the feeling that this might be a manipulation tactic. I've spent hours researching online about false pregnancy claims and paternity rights. I've thought about reaching out to Sarah, but every time I consider it, I remember how toxic our relationship had become and how much happier I've been since the breakup. I haven't told anyone about this yet. Not my family, not even my best friend Mike. I'm not sure what to do. Am I the asshole for not believing her and insisting on proof? Should I have handled this differently? I keep replaying the conversation in my head, wondering if I missed something. She did look different, tired, stressed. But couldn't that just be from the drama of our breakup? And why wait 2 months to tell me? If she really is pregnant, shouldn't she have known sooner? The threat of her telling everyone is weighing on me too. My parents would be devastated if they thought I'd abandon a pregnant girlfriend. And my friends? I can only imagine what they'd think. I've always prided myself on being a stand-up guy, and the thought of everyone believing I'm some deadbeat dad-to-be is killing me. But at the same time, I can't just accept this without question. Sarah's past behavior has made it impossible for me to trust her word alone. And bringing a child into the world is a huge responsibility, one that I'm not sure either of us is ready for, especially given the current state of our relationship. I've thought about reaching out to some of our mutual friends to see if they know anything, but I'm worried about the rumor mill starting before I even know what's really going on. And what if Sarah hasn't told anyone else yet? I don't want to be the one to spread this information if it turns out to be false. There's also a small part of me that's terrified of the possibility that it might be true. I'm not ready to be a father. Sarah and I had talked about kids in the abstract someday in the future, but never as an immediate reality. And the thought of being tied to Sarah for the rest of my life, given how toxic our relationship had become, it's overwhelming. I've even considered the possibility that the child might not be mine, even if she is pregnant. Given how accusatory she was about my fidelity, could she have been projecting? Could there have been someone else? It's a horrible thought, but I can't help but consider every possibility. The more I think about it, the more confused and frustrated I become. I feel like I'm being forced into a corner with no good options. If I reach out to Sarah and try to get more information, am I opening myself up to more manipulation? If I ignore her, am I potentially abandoning my child? I know I need to do something, but I'm paralyzed by indecision. Every option seems fraught with potential pitfalls. I keep hoping that maybe she'll reach out again with more information, or agree to my request for proof, but so far there's been nothing but silence. Part of me wonders if I should just bite the bullet and agree to whatever Sarah wants, just to keep the peace. But I know that's not the right thing to do. If there really is a child involved, they deserve parents who are sure and committed, not someone who's just going along with it to avoid conflict. I've even considered seeking legal advice, but that feels like such a drastic step. What if this all turns out to be a misunderstanding or a false alarm? Would I be overreacting by getting lawyers involved at this stage? The whole situation has made me reevaluate our entire relationship. Were there signs I missed? Red flags I ignored? I thought I was being a good boyfriend by trying to reassure her and prove my faithfulness. But did I just enable her behavior? Should I have ended things sooner? It's been a week since Sarah showed up at my door, and I feel no closer to a resolution. Every day that passes feels like a ticking clock. If she really is pregnant, decisions will need to be made soon. But how can I make any decisions when I'm not even sure of the basic facts? I keep asking myself, am I the asshole for insisting on proof? Am I the asshole for not believing my ex-girlfriend and insisting on proof of her pregnancy? Or am I justified in my caution given our history? What would you do in my situation? Update 1. Hey everyone, it's been about 3 weeks since my original post and a lot has happened. I wanted to give you all an update on the situation with Sarah and her pregnancy claim. First off, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your advice and perspectives really helped me gain some clarity on the situation. Many of you suggested that I should stand my ground and insist on proof, while others pointed out that I needed to be prepared for the possibility that Sarah might actually be pregnant. After a few days of radio silence following our confrontation, Sarah reached out to me via text. She apologized for her outburst and said she understood why I might have doubts. She agreed to provide medical proof of the pregnancy and to take a paternity test once it was safe to do so. I was relieved that she seemed to be taking a more rational approach, but I was still wary. We agreed to meet at a local coffee shop to talk things through. I suggested a public place to avoid any potential drama and to keep things civil. When we met, Sarah looked different from when she had shown up at my door. She seemed calmer, more collected. She handed me an envelope containing ultrasound images and a doctor's report confirming her pregnancy. According to the documents, she was indeed about 10 weeks pregnant, which aligned with the timeline she had given me earlier. Seeing those ultrasound images, I can't even describe the mix of emotions I felt. This was really happening, especially given how things had ended between us. She admitted that her approach, showing up unannounced and making demands, was wrong, and she apologized for it. I listened to her and tried to keep an open mind. I explained my perspective too, how her past behavior had made it difficult for me to trust her words alone, and how shocked and unprepared I felt when she dropped this news on me. We discussed our options. Sarah said she wanted to keep the baby, but she understood if I wasn't ready to be a father. She said she wouldn't force me into anything, but she hoped I would be involved in the child's life. I told her I needed time to process everything. The paternity test was still on the table, and she agreed to it. We decided to wait until it was safe to perform the non-invasive prenatal paternity test, which can be done after the 7th week of pregnancy, but decided that the 12th week would be the safest. After our meeting, I felt a bit better about the situation, but I was still overwhelmed. I decided it was time to tell my family and close friends about what was going on. I started with my parents. To say they were shocked would be an understatement. My mom was torn between excitement at the prospect of being a grandmother and concern about the circumstances. My dad was more skeptical, reminding me of how volatile my relationship with Sarah had been. They both supported my decision to get a paternity test and urged me to be cautious. Telling my best friend Mike use next. He was surprised but supportive. He offered to be there for me throughout the process, whatever I decided to do. He also suggested I might want to consider talking to a lawyer to understand my rights and responsibilities, just in case. Over the next couple of weeks, Sarah and I stayed in touch via text. She kept me updated on her doctor's appointments and how she was feeling. It was strange, navigating this new dynamic with someone I had such a complicated history with. Then, about a week ago, things took an unexpected turn. Sarah called me, sounding panicked. She said she had started bleeding and was on her way to the hospital. Without thinking, I rushed to meet her there. The next few hours were a blur of tests, worried waiting, and tense conversations with doctors. Finally, we got the news. Sarah had suffered a miscarriage. The doctor explained that it was unfortunately common in early pregnancies and that it wasn't anyone's fault. I was stunned. I hadn't even fully processed the idea of becoming a father, and now it was over. Sarah was devastated. Despite our past issues, seeing her in so much pain was heartbreaking. I stayed with her at the hospital until she was discharged. On the drive back to her place, we barely spoke. Once at her apartment, Sarah broke down. She apologized again for how she had handled everything, saying she had been scared and didn't know what to do. She admitted that her past behavior, the jealousy, the accusations, had been wrong, and losing the baby had made her realize how much she had messed things up between us. I listened to her, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Part of me was sad about the loss of a potential child, even though I had been unsure about becoming a father. Another part felt relief, which then made me feel guilty, and there was still a small voice in the back of my mind wondering if this whole thing had been real. I asked Sarah if she had told anyone else about the pregnancy. She said no, that she had been waiting to get past the first trimester before telling her family and friends. So now only my parents, Mike and I, knew about the whole situation. We talked for hours that night, about the pregnancy, about our failed relationship, about where we go from here. Sarah said she was going to start therapy to work on her trust issues and jealousy. She didn't ask to get back together or try to manipulate the situation, which I appreciated. I told her I needed some time and space to process everything that had happened. She understood and agreed that it was probably for the best if we didn't see each other for a while. As I left her apartment that night, I felt drained, but also somewhat relieved. The roller coaster of emotions over the past few weeks had been exhausting. Now, a week later, I'm still trying to make sense of everything that happened. I've been seeing a therapist to help me work through my feelings about the whole situation. It's been helpful to have a neutral party to talk to. I've also been doing a lot of thinking about my relationship with Sarah and my own behavior. While I still believe I was right to ask for proof of the pregnancy, I've realized that there were times in our relationship where I could have communicated better or been more understanding of her insecurities. Sarah and I have texted a few times since that night. She's been going to therapy and says it's helping her understand her behavior better. She's apologized again for how she treated me during our relationship and for how she handled the pregnancy news. I'm not sure what the future holds for us. I don't think we'll ever get back together romantically. Too much has happened, and I think we're better off apart. But I'm open to the possibility of eventually developing a friendship once we've both had time to heal and grow. As for the question of whether the pregnancy was real or not, I honestly don't know. The medical documents seemed legitimate, and the doctors at the hospital confirmed that Sarah had miscarried. But given our history, there's still a part of me that wonders. I've decided that for my own peace of mind, I need to accept that it was real and move forward from there. I've learned a lot from this experience. About communication, about trust, about how past action. Looking back at my original post, I can see how shocked and confused I was. I still stand by my decision to ask for proof, but I also understand now why Sarah might have reacted the way she did initially. Fear and hormones can make people act in ways they normally wouldn't. To those who asked in the comments of my original post, no, I haven't told any of our mutual friends about what happened. Sarah and I agreed that it was a private matter, and spreading the story would only lead to unnecessary drama and gossip. As for work, things have thankfully calmed down. The awkwardness with Emily and my other coworkers has mostly dissipated. I've thrown myself into my projects, which has been a welcome distraction from everything else going on in my life. I know this update might not be what some of you were expecting. Life rarely follows the neat, clear-cut scenarios we imagine. It's messy and complicated, and often leaves us with more questions than answers. I'm still processing everything that's happened, and I expect it will take time before I fully come to terms with it all. But I'm taking it one day at a time, focusing on my own growth and healing. Thank you all again for your advice and support. It really helped me navigate this difficult situation. If anything significant changes, I'll be sure to post another update. For now, I'm just trying to move forward, learn from this experience, and focus on building a better future for myself. Update 2. I really wanted to end my story at the last update. It was somewhat of an okay ending, but the world sometimes just doesn't work as it's supposed to. It's been about 2 months since my last update, and I'm still angry from everything that's happened. I thought the situation with Sarah couldn't get any more complicated, but I was wrong. So wrong. After the miscarriage, Sarah and I had minimal contact. We'd text occasionally, mostly her updating me on her therapy progress and me politely responding. I was still processing everything and trying to move on with my life. Work was going well. I'd thrown myself into a new project, and it was a welcome distraction. Things with my coworkers, including Emily, had pretty much returned to normal. I was even starting to consider dating again, though I hadn't actually gone on any dates yet. Then, about 3 weeks ago, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, a man's voice asked if I was my name. When I confirmed, he introduced himself as Robert and said we needed to talk about Sarah. My stomach dropped. I asked who he was, and he said he was Sarah's ex-boyfriend. Apparently, they had dated for a few weeks during a period when Sarah and I were on a break. I remembered that break. It was after a particularly bad fight, and we'd spent about 2 months apart. Robert said he had recently found out about the pregnancy and miscarriage from Sarah, and he had some information he thought I should know. We agreed to meet at a local bar the next evening. I spent the next 24 hours in a state of anxiety, my mind racing with possibilities. Part of me didn't want to go, didn't want to know whatever it was Robert had to tell me, but I knew I had to face this. When I met Robert at the bar, I was surprised by how normal he seemed. He was about my age, seemed like a decent guy. He bought us both a beer and got straight to the point. "Sarah lied to you," he said. "The baby wasn't yours, it was mine." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Robert went on to explain that he and Sarah had continued seeing each other on and off, even after she and I got back together. The last time they'd been together was about a week before Sarah and I broke up for good. Robert showed me text messages between him and Sarah dating back months. In them, Sarah talked about how unhappy she was with me, how she was only staying because she was afraid of being alone. Were messages from the time she found out she was pregnant, panicking about what to do. As I scrolled through the messages, feeling sicker by the minute, I came across one that was extremely angry. It was from Sarah to Robert, dated just a few days before she showed up at my door claiming to be pregnant with my child. "I have a plan," the message read. "I'm going to tell my name. The baby is his. He makes good money and he's always wanted kids. He'll take care of us." I couldn't believe what I was reading. Not only had she cheated on me, but she had deliberately tried to trap me into raising another man's child. Robert felt guilty after the miscarriage, and felt after Robert left, I sat at the bar for a long time, trying to process what I just learned. The bartender must have sensed something was wrong, because he gave me the next beer on the house. I went home that night, feeling numb. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The next day, I called in sick to work. I needed time to think. I spent the day alternating between anger and disbelief. How could Sarah have done this? How could she have lied so easily, so thoroughly? And how could I have been so blind? I thought back to all the times Sarah had accused me of cheating, all the jealous outbursts and invasions of privacy. It had all been projection. She was the one cheating all along. After a day of stewing in my own thoughts, I knew I had to confront Sarah. I couldn't let this go unanswered. I texted her, asking if we could meet. She agreed, probably thinking it was just another check-in. We met at the same coffee shop where she had shown me the ultrasound pictures. As soon as she saw my face, she knew something was wrong. Before she could say anything, I laid it all out. I told her about my meeting with Robert, about the text messages, about everything I now knew. For a moment, she looked like she was going to deny it, but then she started crying, saying she was sorry, that she never meant for things to go this far. I asked her how she could do this to me, how she could lie about something so huge, try to trap me into raising a child that wasn't mine. She said she had been scared and desperate, that she thought if she could just get me to accept the baby as mine, everything would work out. I told her that what she had done was unforgivable, that she had not only betrayed my trust in the worst way possible, but that she had been willing to bring an innocent child into her web of lies. Sarah begged for forgiveness, said she would do anything to make it right, but I knew there was no making this right. The trust between us was irreparably broken. I told her that I never wanted to see her or hear from her again. I said that I hoped she would continue with therapy because she clearly needed help. Then I got up and walked out, ignoring her pleas for me to stay and talk. The next few days were a blur. I told my parents and Mike what had happened. They were furious on my behalf. My mom wanted to call Sarah and give her a piece of her mind, but I asked her not to. I just wanted to be done with the whole situation. I also decided to tell a few of our mutual friends. I knew Sarah might try to spin the story, and I wanted to get ahead of it. I didn't go into all the details, just said that Sarah had cheated on me and lied about the pregnancy. Most of them didn't know about the drama that was going on, and were shocked and supportive of me. One friend, though, admitted that she had suspected Sarah might be cheating. She said she had seen Sarah with another guy a few times, but wasn't sure if it was anything serious. She apologized for not telling me sooner. I was hurt that she hadn't said anything, but I understood why she hadn't wanted to get involved. At work, I finally told Emily the whole story. She was incredibly understanding and supportive. She even admitted that she'd always thought Sarah seemed off, but hadn't wanted to say anything negative about my girlfriend. We've actually grown closer through all of this, and I'm starting to see her in a new light. Who knows, maybe something might develop there in the future. As for Sarah, I haven't heard from her since our confrontation at the coffee shop. I've blocked her number and all social media. A mutual friend told me she's moved back in with her parents and is continuing with therapy. Part of me hopes she gets the help she needs, but mostly, I just want her out of my life for good. Looking back on our relationship, I can see now how toxic it was. Sarah's jealousy and insecurity weren't just annoying quirks, they were signs of deeper issues. I realize now that I should have ended things long before I did. I've been doing a lot of thinking about why I stayed with Sarah for so long, why I put up with her behavior. I think part of it was that I was afraid of being alone. Part of it was that I thought I could fix her, make her trust me if I just tried hard enough. And part of it, I'm ashamed to admit, was that I enjoyed feeling needed, even if it was in an unhealthy way. One of the hardest things to come to terms with has been the loss of the future I thought I might have. Even though I had been unsure about the pregnancy, a part of me had started to imagine what it would be like to be a father. To have that ripped away, and then to find out it was all a lie, it's been tough. But I'm also relieved. Relieved that I found out the truth before it was too late. Relieved that I'm not tied to Sarah for the rest of my life. I've been focusing on myself these past few weeks. I've gotten back into running, something I used to love, but had given up during my relationship with Sarah. I'm reading more, spending time with friends, and even thinking about taking a solo trip somewhere. Work has been a great distraction. I've thrown myself into the new project, and my boss has noticed. He's hinted that a promotion might be in my future if I keep it up. It's nice to have something positive to focus on. As for dating, I'm not ready to jump back into anything serious yet. I need time to heal and to learn to trust again. But I'm not closing myself off to the possibility of meeting someone new when the time is right. I've learned a lot from this whole experience. About myself, about relationships, about trust. I've learned that it's important to trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. To those who followed my story from the beginning, thank you for your support and advice. You helped me see things more clearly when I was too close to the situation to do so myself. If there's one thing I want people to take away from my story, it's this. Trust is precious, and once it's broken, it's incredibly hard to rebuild. Don't stay in a relationship where you're constantly doubting your partner or yourself. And if someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. As for me, I'm taking things one day at a time. Some days are harder than others, but overall, I'm doing okay. I'm looking forward to the future, whatever it may hold, and I know that whatever challenges come my way, I'm strong enough to face them. This will be my final update on this situation. It's time for me to close this chapter of my life and move on. Thank you all again for your support throughout this crazy journey. Here's to new beginnings and better days ahead. Update 3. It's been about 10 months since my last update, and I honestly didn't think I'd be writing another one. I thought the Sarah chapter of my life was closed for good. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. After everything that happened with Sarah and the revelation about her cheating, I focused on moving forward with my life. I threw myself into work, continued with therapy, and started rebuilding my social life. Things were going well, all things considered. The promotion my boss had hinted at came through. I'm now leading my own team on a major project, which has been challenging but rewarding. Emily and I have been working closely together, and I have to admit, there's definitely been some flirting going on. We haven't acted on it yet, mostly because I've been cautious about getting involved with a coworker after everything that happened with Sarah, but the attraction is there. About a month ago, everything changed again. I was at the grocery store one evening, just picking up some things for dinner, when I quite literally ran into Robert. Yes, that Robert, Sarah's ex-boyfriend, the one who had told me the truth about the baby. We both stood there for a moment, shocked at the coincidence. Then, Robert asked if I wanted to grab a coffee and talk. I hesitated at first. Did I really want to revisit all of that? But curiosity got the better of me, and I agreed. Over coffee, Robert filled me in on what had been happening with Sarah. Apparently, she'd had a complete breakdown after our confrontation. She'd quit her job, moved back in with her parents, and had been in intensive therapy. Robert had kept in touch with her parents, feeling somewhat responsible for her state. What he told me next was that Sarah had recently discovered that she was pregnant again, and this time it was definitely Robert's. They weren't back together, but he was planning to co-parent with her. I sat there angry. Why should Sarah get to have a baby when she had lied about the last one? But another part of me felt relieved that it wasn't me in Robert's position, tied to Sarah for the rest of my life. Robert seemed genuinely excited about becoming a father, though he admitted he was nervous about co-parenting with Sarah given their history. He said Sarah had made a lot of progress in therapy, dealing with her trust issues and manipulative behavior. But he was still cautious. Before we parted ways, Robert hesitated, then said, "There's something else you should know. Sarah's been asking about you. She wants to apologize in person for everything she did." I told Robert the first thing about it, but I wasn't making any promises. Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about what Robert had told me. I talked it over with my therapist, trying to sort out my feelings. I asked Robert to arrange the meeting, making it clear that this was a one-time thing. We met at a park on a Saturday afternoon. I chose a public place, both for the neutrality and to avoid any potential drama. When I saw Sarah approaching, I was struck by how different she looked. She seemed smaller somehow, less confident. Sarah sat down on the bench next to me, keeping a respectful distance. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she took a deep breath and began. "I know nothing I say can undo what I did," she started. "But I want you to know how deeply sorry I am for everything. For the cheating, for the lies, for trying to trap you with a baby that wasn't yours. It was inexcusable, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." She went on to explain that she'd been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which helped explain, but not excuse, some of her past behavior. She talked about the intensive therapy she'd been going through, learning to manage her emotions and insecurities in healthier ways. "I'm not telling you this to ask for forgiveness," she said. "I know I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that I understand how much I hurt you, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure I never treat anyone that way again." When she finished speaking, I took a moment to gather my thoughts. Then I told her that while I appreciated her apology, I couldn't forgive her, at least not yet. The wounds were still too fresh, the betrayal too deep, but I did tell her that I hoped she would continue with her therapy and work on becoming a better person, especially now that she was going to be a mother. Sarah nodded. She thanked me for listening and for being willing to meet with her. As she stood to leave, she paused, then said, "I truly am happy for you. You know, Robert told me about your promotion and about Emily. I hope it works out for you. You deserve to be happy." With that, she walked away. I sat on that bench for a long time after she left, processing everything that had just happened. It wasn't the dramatic confrontation I might have imagined. Instead, it felt like the quiet closing of a door, the final end of a chapter in my life. In the week since that meeting, I've done a lot of thinking about Sarah, about our relationship, about everything that happened. I've realized that while I can't forgive her actions, I can let go of the anger I've been holding on to. It's not about excusing what she did, but about freeing myself from the negative emotions that have been weighing me down. As for my personal life, things have been looking up. Remember how I mentioned there was some flirtation going on with Emily? Well, about a week after my meeting with Sarah, Emily and I finally addressed the elephant in the room. We decided to give dating a shot, with the agreement that we'd keep things professional at work and be open with our boss about the situation to avoid any potential conflicts of interest. It's early days yet, but being with Emily feels different from any relationship I've had before. There's a level of trust and open communication that I never had with Sarah. We're taking things slow, both of us aware of the potential complications of dating a coworker. But so far, it's been really good. My friends and family have been supportive of this new development. Mike even joked that he knew Emily and I would end up together from the moment he heard about the crazy ex-girlfriend incident at the office. My parents are just happy to see me happy again. Work continues to go well. The project I'm leading is on track, and my team has really come together. It's satisfying to see something I've worked so hard on starting to bear fruit. As for Sarah and Robert, I've decided to keep my distance. Robert sends me occasional updates, which I appreciate, but I've made it clear that I don't want to be involved in their lives. I wish them well, especially for the sake of their child, but that's a chapter of my life that's firmly closed. To those who have followed my story from the beginning, thank you for your support and advice. Your words help me more than you know, especially during those dark days right after I found out the truth about Sarah's deception. I don't know what the future holds. My relationship with Emily is still new, and who knows where it will lead. My career is on an upward trend, but there will undoubtedly be challenges ahead. Life is just unpredictable like that. But for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the future. I feel like I've been given a fresh start, a chance to apply all the lessons I've learned, and build a life that's truly fulfilling. This will be my final update on this situation. It's time to close this chapter for good and focus on the future. Thank you all again for your support throughout this crazy journey. Here's to new beginnings, hard-earned wisdom, and the endless possibilities that lie ahead.